I previously had sent the performer some videos in order for him to see the style and kind of performance and themes that we will be addressing. I decided in this rehearsal to talk through this research with the performer in order to see how his understanding had developed and what ideas he had.
Okay, so on our last Skype rehearsal, I sent you some links to some footage to have a look at, to kind of let you know the feel of the piece, kind of get you into the kind of themes and motives and how it might look visually when we do it properly. What kind of things did you get from the videos that I sent you?
I noticed that throughout them all, obviously they were all telling different stories or they were different pieces completely, but I did notice a running element throughout them all in which they all had an element of sort of practical simplicity.
Yeah.
They were definitely very physical theatre based and such. They're definitely not just dance. They were physical, they were practical, but they told an appropriate story. But it was very clean as well, very clean and crisp.
Yeah.
I liked how, I noticed, but I also liked how everything was on stage.
This so far was positive, as it showed that the videos I had chosen were easily understood and did show the correct kind of style and information. I decided to discuss more in depth with the performer that this is the kind of look and feel that we will be going for.
And that's the kind of thing that we're going to be going for, really. So that kind of everything being on stage, practical, very, very practical. You mentioned how
as well. I think most of them had sort of good use of technology as well, installation art as well, which is always great to see. I love the collaborative of different art mediums put together to support one another, different installations, things that supported. And but again, it was simple. It was never too much. It was always there to just support and to sort of fill in the gaps, I guess.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we're going to be going with. So if you've noticed in the script, there's quite a lot of projection, and that kind of almost sets up what we're doing. It almost kind of informs the audience of the purpose behind some of the actions that we do.
Yeah.
Again, some of the movements that we've been doing so far are very practical, and they're quite functional, and they will kind of, we'll be on stage for the whole time. And you mentioned about how people are taking their own things off, taking their own set off.
Yes.
So that's the kind of feel that we're going for. So very, very simple, so that the focus is on us, really. And it feels kind of a little bit less of a kind of stagey performance and more about us. Yeah, more about two human beings, really. And the focus will just be on us throughout. There won't be a lot to distract. Awesome, okay.
This showed that the performer understood that tech and set would be used to help the audience more clearly understand theme and message. This is important so that the performer is adhering to the aims of the project when performing. I then decided to ask the performer for his feedback on physical and Skype rehearsals so far.
So obviously we've done quite a mix now of physical rehearsals and Skype rehearsals. So how do you think the physical rehearsals are going first of all?
Well, I'm so used. I'm very used to physical rehearsals, and obviously a lot of the work we're doing is physical theatre, and so I think they are going brilliantly. I can't fault them one bit. We've always got good space, albeit in Leicester at the theatre, or locally through you and I at the community centre, or even my house that time when we moved the table out of the way. They've gone well. We've been very, mindset into setting some good physical theatre pieces.
Yeah.
And we definitely, we work well together and such. And the concepts are clear, which obviously always helps. And we both enjoy this kind of work as well. We both enjoy creating work like this.
This highlighted the importance of using good space when having physical rehearsals, as myself and the performer both feel this has benefited our creativity. The performer also noted that the concepts were clear, which shows that the in-depth research I undertook helped to really define meaning and shape the piece. The performer also noted that we both enjoy this kind of work, which is true. I feel this shows good professional practice, as I ensured I used a performer that would be able to conduct and create this kind of work, which shows good delegation skills. I then decided to highlight to the performer how much we developed, even though there was major changes to the piece.
Like you say, we've done quite well. Obviously the piece has changed a lot. First of all, it was obviously going to be in Coventry.
It's ever changing, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. It was always going to be changeable anyway. But it's had some quite drastic kind of reshapes. Obviously some of the ideas at first probably weren't as ethical as they should have been, so we've changed those. And I think now what I'm noticing especially is that we've become really conscious of ethics, really. Probably more so than before. I think before we both work in a way that we're just like, let's just do it, and if it offends people then let's just go there. Whereas now I think we both became a little bit more conscious of how things can be interpreted, which, you know, is important when we work in different spaces, I suppose. I think we're quite used to people coming into our space, but of course when we go out to other spaces, we've got to be aware of who's there and things. So I think we've done that when we're making things. I think we're quite aware of how it can be interpreted now, probably more so than we were before.
The performer then went on to say how much his character had developed, which is positive as it means that our rehearsals have been successful and means that this should help highlight theme and message to the audience, which is one of the main aims of the project.
We've definitely taken on, there is definitely more of a sense of our character now when we're creating more work, or even revamping some of the work we've done before. We've got a definite, I know I've definitely got more of a set basis of what my character is going to be like, especially in Tamer of the Shrew. And that's helped with bringing that emotion that you wanted me to show more of. So that's helped me do that and portray that within the performances now and such. And the movement, I mean, even if it's not necessarily been changed as a movement, a slight difference in it now is that because I know my character better, I do things slightly differently.
Definitely. There's just little like inclinations and tiny little gestures that come through now just naturally because we know.
Naturally, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I then decided to discuss with the performer how he thought the Skype rehearsals were going. This would allow me to make changes if needed, but also allow me to assess if Skype was being successful or not.
So how do you think the Skype rehearsals are going?
Well, in terms of now giving me feedback, setting me things to do, going through lines, talking through research concepts, and they're all brilliant because this is ideal. This is something we can do really easily over Skype. I've never done this before, but it's definitely very effective. And I find it, there's times in the past when you've gone to rehearse for things and you thought, gosh, did I really have to travel all that way just to talk about characters or just to talk about what you've figured out, what you've gathered, or just to share ideas and not to actually physically or practically do something, but just talk about it. And say, Skype is excellent for cutting out those unnecessary journeys and allowing you to get that sort of more mundane but necessary side of the work done.
Completely.
But in terms of physical, maybe it's just me right now, but in my room I don't have the most space to get physical. I suppose if it was summertime, I could have taken the laptop out in the garden, I guess. And we could have got a bit more jiggy. But so I think it's fantastic for some things. Other things, it's a little bit more difficult, but I guess you can always get a little bit of a sense of something. But if it was just acting, if we were just going through lines, if we were just doing purely acting, then we're absolutely fine. But we're not. We're doing physical theatre, and that obviously, you need to have awareness of space, awareness of another presence, especially a lot of the work we're doing as well can be quite contact orientated, and so I can't pick my laptop up and pretend it's you. Unfortunately. So it's brilliant for some things. Other things, not so. But it's trial and error. I think it's the first time you've done this as well, isn't it? And so, but perfect for some things as well.
As the performer identified that Skype wasn't so successful for practical movement work due to space, I will now look at seeing if we can both choose a different space to Skype in and see if this has an impact on what we can do. However, if not, I will keep Skype rehearsals, so mainly acting-based work and speech-based work, which seems to be how I've naturally begun to use it anyway. Next, I decided to work on some character information and some characterisation for Jake's character in Measure for Measure.
So yeah, so we've spoken a bit about your character in Measure for Measure. So just a little bit more further info for your improvs really of him. So I think like an important thing to remember is that he is so virtuous. Now it's quite difficult because obviously I think nowadays we're quite suspicious of that straight away. I think just certain things in the media and stuff lately, I think the audience, if you come across as too overtly virtuous, then they will be suspicious straight away. And they will be like, okay, he's too squeaky clean.
Yeah.
So I think you've definitely got a harder job doing this as a modern version than you would have had, what, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Because we just don't trust people as much anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, we are naturally more suspicious.
So I think that's probably going to be your biggest challenge with the improv.
This was important to discuss as it highlighted the nature of adaptations. With context constantly changing, so does the nature of the adaptation.
So yeah, so I think it is going to be definitely a bit more of a challenge for you. But yeah, so you still need to get across that he feels he's more virtuous than other people, possibly borderline arrogant, but not so arrogant that the audience starts to dislike him. Because obviously the main point or the main aim is that the audience should agree with you. Right. So that once the decision is made, they'll hopefully take your side. So obviously, like we spoke about at the end, you will have this shock reveal of you and the audience will be like, oh, shouldn't have made that judgment.
Yeah.
So you've got...
based on like some things I say, do, how I'm dressed, I imagine.
Exactly, that's going to be quite a big thing. Yeah, in terms of sourcing costumes, I'm not worried about you for Measure because I'm sure you've got plenty of suits, right?
Yeah.
So costume's fine for you. Yeah, costume and stance, you pretty much naturally, you kind of probably have the stance of him. I wouldn't worry too much physically about representing him because I think then it would just border, like we say, on too arrogant.
Yeah.
So I think just, you know, come across as very, very well educated, well in the knowledge. I'm going to make Alan's character, obviously in a few weeks, hopefully we'll be rehearsing with Alan as well, and possibly Elliot and Nettie and all that. And Alan's character should hopefully be very, very sweet, not nasty, but just a little bit more clueless.
Yeah.
I guess. A little bit more ditzy, a little bit more unsure of herself. So hopefully you can kind of play on that, I think.
Yeah.
Now that the performer was knowledgeable about his character, I decided next to explore how he would portray the character to the audience, so that the intended theme and message were shown clearly.
So obviously now that we've had a chat about him, and we've done a little bit of backstory about him, how do you think you'll present him on stage to the audience?
I think he'll be very... Well, obviously you've given me the term virtuous to go with. And so I'm going to take that and I'm going to go very like assertive as well. Like a natural leader. Almost like, because he's virtuous and because you want him to trust you, like nobody really trusts a politician that much.
Right, yeah.
I'm going to be that real benevolent and sort of warm figure that is, you know, all about the people.
Yeah,
and all
completely.
About, you know, prosperity and constantly reference like human development and just you know, appeal to everybody's sort of sensitive side, I guess.
Yeah, completely.
Use that and even use like examples and comparisons. Like, you know, imagine if this was you.
Yeah.
Imagine if this was your daughter.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to grow up like this. We don't want to have to witness this and such. You know, And just, I don't know, like, a definite sort of, like, Pope figure, I guess.
Yeah, that is completely it. I think really go on the religious, but like you say, not preaching.
Like preaching or like, referencing the Bible.
No, but just that warmth.
Like a shepherd trying to look after his lamb.
Completely. And like you say, that's gonna
language and
completely. And like you say, that's gonna make people warm to you, and that's what it's got to do. So you're virtuous but soft. Yeah, completely. Yeah. Okay, awesome.